Okay, so I wanted to, I guess, read through some of my journal entries as of recently. Um, all right, here is a passage that I had written a couple days ago. There is going to be a collection of people who, through the universe's divine intention, are presented to facilitate the progression of the greater creation as intended to be experienced in this version of life. Deep universal knowledge and divine timing are very much at play and assist in the greater drama of existence. That through these transitions of consciousness, we, as a being, and all versions of ourselves that we still embody, will and do continue to experience, in doing so, perpetuate those timelines throughout existence. You can choose to co-create with the versions of yourself and universes or greater dimensions or planes. Words in this way become very muddy here. That we might embody the greater understanding of self. Existence, balance, and understanding. Yet, in doing so, always leading with a heart full of love and open understanding. Where if you have to hold boundaries or decide to choose to take a path where others may not be yet able to go, through silence, memory, joy, appreciation, forgiveness, understanding, and acceptance, I believe one can learn, create, and grow into anything. That through focused effort and attention, and also rest as well as organic experience, we are able to drop into that presence. So, I know there was a lot of sort of weaving back and forth there, and I think it's very dependent on individual perspective as to how you might interpret some of the terms I'm using. Whether you're a particularly religious person or, spiritual or, very scientific, I feel like universal intention and the way that I guess the cosmos sort of interacts, many different names, like I've said before, for the same kind of stuff. So I think in through that self-acceptance, acceptance of self in this timeline and acceptance of self in all timelines and therefore, all versions of reality, one is then able to understand the greater drama that we are experiencing. And I don't know the full scope of everything. I think there are a lot of different layers that we need to go through in order to fully understand. But a greater presence is easily accessible when one is able to access this higher form of self, this love that kind of existed within you from the very beginning and throughout life. And a lot of people call that, like, greater consciousness, perspective, self. Some people call it, gods or energies, deities. I think there are many, many, many different names across many, many, many different universes and timelines. And that we could spend an eternity just talking about that. So taking a look beyond those names and understanding the greater intention of what is said, I think is like either you have that understanding or you don't, based on, and there's that faith in understanding as well. Anyways, I know not yet fully what I need to do, but I do know that there is something beautiful happening. Something peaceful, something safe, but not in like a, like, anything could happen at any time technically, but the safety is sort of like this, like, deep heart space safety. This deep, like, acceptance of self and greater understanding. And that, in doing so, you're able to drop into the moment and be both the cup and the drink, as well as the drinker, Experience things from as many perspectives as you need to, whether that's introspection or, introspective thought processes or lessons learned, interpersonally. To an extent, we are all, a version of the greater reflection of self. And in this way, when you come to this greater love and understanding of that, this feeling, just, kind of floods you. And some might call that faith or hope or religion. Knowing. I think that very much of this is meant to come organically. And so, we get up in this, like, hurry up and wait, hurry up and stop. Waiting for all the parts of yourself to kind of fall into place. You just find this humility within yourself. And you're like, okay, We've taken us as far as we can go in this way. How can we go beyond this in a healthy way, in a way not to seek to improve necessarily, but like to refine, to hone, to further. That through deep intention and thought and joy and understanding, everything can be healed, but also not just healed. Healed's the wrong word. Not, I want to say overcome, but that's not right either. Like surrendered to, like divine surrender, divine understanding of like, okay, what needs to happen, what's going to happen is both within my control to influence based on my perspective and understanding within myself and my relationship to the greater universe and its reflection within me and without of me, that you can choose to co-create, or when you have taken it as far as you can, ask for I guess in a way divine intervention, help. That's a lot of what I personally always feared and tried my very hardest to do what I can not to burden others. But the thing is, in doing so, I think I caused more problems than, I intended. And that's the funny thing is like, oftentimes when we as people choose to try to avoid something, go really hard against something, we end up rounding ourselves all the way back, and we're right back where we started, or we're worse. And we want to do what we can to improve, because we're always improving. We're always seeking better understanding of self or universe or whatever you want to call it. And when you're not, a lot of people think about this like lack of improvement or outward progress as like a negative thing, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. That you can take time to be introspective, to learn your flaws, accept them, grow beyond them, and learn about this new version of yourself, and then learn to accept that new version of yourself, and on and on and on and on. But it's all in stages. It's all too overwhelming if you look at it, from the big grand perspective. So a lot of people just, put it into these very basic, wide sweeping terms. And then people tend to attach to those terms and then, over interpolate, because we like to think, we like to experiment with thought. But the literacy, the literalness of understanding is where I think we get caught up, where the, flexibility and analogy and poetry is taken out of it, when it should be very much presented as a part of it, because we are creation, we are creativity, we are poetry, artwork in motion, stardust, you know and much of what we fear, much of what we hold in, you know, wound of self, is stuff that we saw in someone else, saw and recognized as harmful, but we only saw and recognized that it was bad or harmful because we saw it within ourselves first. So it's like this, like, chicken and the egg situation, mirrors reflecting back and forth, and that's how I know that there's this interconnectivity or greater self, this greater higher version of self and perspective. Sort of, somebody else, I can't remember who exactly, put it on it, they were online, a video similar to this one. I'll see if I can find their information, but they were like quoting someone else, I believe, and I don't believe they knew either, so who knows. Once again, rounding back to self. So anyways, that much of the greater self, or the highest form of self, not just I self, but the universe, or you know the greater thing that we were talking about, divinity, love, this thing that runs through all of us, that part of self, that part of self is playing hide and seek with itself, because understanding the full breadth of everything is so overwhelming, and the self wants to play a game to make it tolerable, the breadth of existence, the depth of what is. And so, in order to make the creation process, the knowledge process, the growing process interesting, because what a joyous, playful thing to do, as you're entertaining yourself or weaving the narrative of realities, the highest version of self chooses sometimes to create a version like this, a body, a person, and animate and live and experience through it, so that one might see these glimpses and parts of the greater tapestry, but not fully be overwhelmed by it, to zoom in and see the brushstrokes for what they are and really appreciate them. To know and understand the layers, and to receive it as a gift from yourself, from this higher version of self. And it's just, it's like this delightful, like, I want to say kid on Christmas, but like more than that, feeling of like a coming home to self, a receiving and giving at the same time, this mutual exchange of like being the creation, the creative, and the creator all at the same time. I don't have any more right now. But thank you for your time. And I hope you have a wonderful day and that you learn a lot and that you grow and that you take time to drop into the moment and appreciate yourself and appreciate the world. Cast your eyes at the sky and notice the colors and the shapes of the clouds. I think I'm going to end today with a poem that I have read. So kudos, or not read, I wrote it a long time ago, but kudos to anyone who is still here. And you get to listen to my poem because I'm feeling led to be vulnerable in this way. Not many people have heard it, so you get to feel special. Let's see here. It's been a while. Thank you for your patience. Well, try one more thing. See if I can find it. If it's still not there, then you will get something else. Okay, it's here. And it's The Summer Sea's Lullaby is the name of it. Floating in clear, cool water, as the sun caresses the still dry skin, floating just above the ripples. You see the vast and endless sky above you, brilliantly blue and calm. Fluffy white clouds, stretching and wisping to and fro, drift lazily across the horizon. As you do, moving slow, so slow, that no one could notice unless they too were floating with you. The perfect symmetry, the perfect symmetry above and below is simply breathtaking, as if it were designed this way just to please you. The breeze is soft and pleasant, licking your salty cheeks and swaddling you in its tender warmth. The waves now slowly move back and forth, gently coddling your body and lulling it ever so sweetly to sleep. This is the sea's lullaby to you. Good night, sweet water child. Good night. Dream sweetly. Good night. Night, guys. Have a good one.